Texas top law enforcement officer has decided he doesn't like it when the law applies to him. Attorney General Ken Paxton fleeing a process server who attempted to serve him with a subpoena in a lawsuit brought by reproductive health groups looking to help women access legal abortions in states outside of Texas. According to an affidavit, the process server said Paxton fled his home to avoid the subpoena. His wife, a state senator, then, quote, got inside the truck and started it, leaving the rear door behind the driver's side open. A few minutes later, I saw Mr. Paxton ran toward the rear door behind the driver's side. I loudly called him by his name and stated that I had court documents for him. Mr. Paxton ignored me and kept heading for the truck. In response, Ken Paxton tweeted the following. It is clear that the media wants to drum up another controversy involving my work as Attorney General, so they are attacking me for having the audacity to avoid a stranger lingering outside my home and showing concern about the safety and well-being of my family. This coming from a man who has reportedly gone to court to defend a Texas law that allows perfect strangers to sue women on the suspicion that they might have had an abortion. Let's bring back Joyce and David. Joyce, let's just talk about the hypocrisy of Ken Paxton complaining about being approached after setting Texas women up to be harassed.
You know, sometimes events just leave you speechless, and I have to say that this is one of them. This is the Attorney General of the state of Texas saying that he was scared of a process server, someone he didn't know who had approached him. The process server has put forth, and there's no reason to disbelieve this, that he identified himself and indicated that he had legal papers. And Paxton, as the Attorney General of the state of Texas, has served with some frequency, understands and appreciates how this works. So what this boils down to is that Paxton, the Attorney General, the person who's supposed to be in charge and engage in oversight of Texas's criminal justice system, was afraid of facing the courts himself. And if that's not a perfect way of capturing what's going on in Texas on this abortion issue, I don't know what is.
And we should make it clear, he might not have liked this process server, but since then has not accepted the subpoena. David, here's what I need you to help us understand, the politics of Texas. Because if this isn't bad enough, this is a man, in case our audience doesn't know, who has been under indictment for securities fraud for 7 years. He is also the subject of a whistleblower investigation. And what just happened? Primary voters swept him right in. They seem to love this guy. What does that tell you about law enforcement, politics in the state of Texas?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Ken Paxton, one of the more disreputable figures in American politics today. And the only thing he didn't mention is that he actually spoke and participated in the January 6th rally, which was intended to be an insurrection against the United States. And I think it's that final piece that led him to re-election over George P. Bush, one of the younger Bush family members in Texas. Paxton labeled Bush an establishment legacy Republican and said he was the true Trump Republican. And so Texans elected him by a margin of about 2-1. And look, this little episode, as Joyce said, it kind of leaves you questioning a whole lot. But I think it's clear the figure of the person we're speaking about. You can accept a subpoena and actually still petition not to testify. You can petition that, this is out of bounds. And ultimately, that's what he asked the court to do, is to squash the subpoena. And he was victorious in doing that. But to run from a process server raises a couple questions. One, did he think it was about something else? Did he know it was about this matter? Or did he think he was being approached about something else? Or why did he feel threatened? Someone that participated in a January 6th rally with a largely white crowd willing to topple democracy being approached by a process server that appears as Hispanic or at least not of white Caucasian origin. Why is he running from this man? Why doesn't he just accept the court papers and say, hey, I'm the top lawyer in the state. I can handle this. I'm smart enough to handle this. Look, Ken Paxton, he's a bad guy. I mean, let's just be honest. Indictment. He's been accused of bribery by people within his own office. He participated in January 6th, and he ran from a process server. Sometimes you just got to call it like it is. Paxton's a bad guy.
All right, well, then let's put Ken Paxton over there and help us understand, David. I know we give you the hard job. Where do Republicans stand on abortion, because now we're seeing some Texas House Republicans saying they may need to soften their laws on abortion. We're hearing that on the very same day. Doug Mastriano, who is running for governor of Pennsylvania, he's now saying women should be charged for murder, women who pursue abortions. So where is the GOP on this?
Nationally, the GOP is out of step with where the American people are. And people who are in charge of Republican electioneering know that in a post-Dobbs world, they might lose races they otherwise would have won. So Republicans are worse off politically in a post-Dobbs world. Now, as you interpret those numbers, where you see Democrats getting 3, 4, 5, even a bump of 6 points in some key races, what do Republicans have to wrestle with? And I think it comes down to the fact, Stephanie, you and I have discussed, the country somewhat naively often put themselves in pro-life or pro-choice camps until the Dobbs decision. And now you're seeing you're either pro-Roe or not. And you're seeing a lot of pro-life, traditionally performing Republican voters say, wait a minute, I really was pro-Roe. And now the Republican Party is anti-Roe and taking it even further. The Republican Party is out of step on this issue. It is hurting them politically. The question is the consensus within the party willing to approach the Roe framework as a future of the abortion and reproductive health question in America? It doesn't appear so. And frankly, that creates a significant opportunity for Democrats this cycle and next.
Joyce, today it was reported that the governor of Oklahoma told a rape survivor that the law in the state, which is very restrictive, can be softened after it was signed. Why on earth would they soften it? They just made a move to make it so restrictive. And who would believe them?
It's such a hypocritical thing to say. It's patronizing and it's pandering, and women and actually no one else in our society should be deceived by this. The real problem is that Republicans had been chasing the car. They were like the dog running after the car that was Roe versus Wade for close to 50 years, trying to catch it and overturn it. And now that they've caught that car, they don't know quite what to do, because the repercussions of reversing Roe, of having Dobbs become the law of the land, have political implications that they're not ready to face. And so we see these sort of cat calls here, really saying, well, we can soften it. We don't have to make it as bad as we said it would be. At the same time that Republicans in other states are trying to push this to the outer extent of Dobbs, which permits in some cases absolutely cutting off pregnant people's access to abortion, whether they need it for medical purposes or whether it's elective, simply putting it off the table. And so I think the bottom line here is that this is a form of deception that's unworthy of our politicians. When laws are passed, those are the laws of the land. There's no guarantee that they will be strengthened or weakened. They are simply the law, and Republicans should be forced to face the consequences of those decisions.
All right, then, David, before we go, I'm going to gift our audience the world's dumbest question. Why did Republicans do it? Right? The overturning of Roe v. Wade kind of came as a surprise in the dark of night. They didn't have to. They could have ridden inflation straight through these midterms. Why do this at all? All it seems to have done is given them a mountain of problems.
Look, coming out of the 80s and certainly through the 90s, Republicans made a bit of a political deal with the devil and said they would be the home of the pro-life movement. And that is a very powerful constituency, a very powerful lobbying group in D.C. And it is something that had Republicans in a post-Dobbs environment say, wait, let's go back to Roe. Frankly, they might be in a worse situation going into this election than they would otherwise. But to your point, the Dobbs case does not help Republicans going into November. They wanted to prosecute a political case against Joe Biden on the economy and some other tertiary issues. And instead, Republicans are having to wrestle with the stories around Donald Trump, with Dobbs, and with terrible Senate candidates in Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere. This is not a good issue for Republicans. They know it. They would prefer not to talk about it, but it may be exactly what decides November.